To welcome the class of 2022 parents and students. So some of you are sitting in here for the very first time as a high school parent. Some of you are sitting in here for second, third, or maybe even your very last time coming in as a high school parent. So lots of different emotions come in at this point. I'm going to go through a lot of information kind of quickly, and I'm going to introduce faces to you as they come in and out. I'll be the only one that stays in here the whole time because everybody else will be in the other area in the field house taking care of the students and those needs. So right now I want to introduce at this side here, the north end, we have our two assistant principals. Those that work with are Mike Roberson and Travis Spayman. And Travis works with alphabet A through K, and Mike works with alphabet L through Z. We also have counselors. We kind of work in teams here at the high school. So we have counselors that work with Travis at the beginning of the alphabet. So students with A through D. Is Angie in here? Okay, so when Angie Perditis comes in, I'll show you her face. But A through D, Kim Kowalski, and she works with students L through R. Steve Ebink is up there standing in the back, E through K, and Keith Williams is S through Z. So those administrator and counselor teams stay with students from 9th grade all the way through. And I think that's the faces I see right this minute. So I want to welcome you to whether you're a new parent, whether you're a returning parent, or maybe it's your last time, like I said. I also want to welcome parents that are coming here this evening from other places. I know we have somebody that traveled here from Howell tonight. I also know that we have people here from West Michigan Academy of the Arts, Walden Green, Grand Haven Christian, and then from Lakeshore Middle School. So wherever you're coming from and whatever your knowledge and experience is with the district, I just want to welcome you here to the high school. I want to familiarize you a little bit. Oh, Angie just popped in, so there's Angie Perditis. And again, Angie's alphabet is A through D as far as counseling. And Aaron Dean is standing in the doorway also, and Aaron's assistant principal over at Lakeshore, and so a lot of you know Aaron's face. Thanks for being here, Aaron. I want to familiarize you with a little bit with the registration process. We started this course registration coming into the high school and incoming freshman activity night. This is our 19th year we've been doing this evening. And we do this as one opportunity for students to transition and get comfortable in the building, along with parents to get comfortable coming into the high school. The process for registration has changed a great deal in 19 years. So some of what I'm going to share with the process for those that are Grand Haven parents will not be new for you because you're used to Synergy and you've seen the Parent View portal. Students use the Student View portal, and so I'll quickly run through that. It's also important that you know that the curriculum that we have designed at the high school is the Michigan Merit Curriculum required by the state of Michigan, and our students are required to go through state assessments each year, and those state assessments are required for students to graduate from Grand Haven High School. So their junior year in state assessments, we don't get to pick the dates. Those dates happen at the high school level, the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right after spring break. So kids have an opportunity to rest up and come in ready to take their state assessments. So on Tuesday, during that state assessment week, juniors take the SAT test. The SAT test is our college readiness test. On Wednesday, juniors take the Work Keys test, and that's their career readiness test. And on that Wednesday, our 9th and 10th graders take the pre-SAT, and that indicates how they might score on the SAT test as a junior. That also indicates for them where they might have some weaknesses in their academic progression. And we use Khan Academy, and Khan Academy, you can create a Khan Academy account and a College Board account, and the data from their PSAT and SAT scores can be merged, and the Khan Academy portal will help the students go through tutorials that are prescribed specifically for their own individual areas of weakness. So that just happened this year for the first time, so we're new into getting those two accounts developed. But as we continue to work through that process, we feel like our students will be able to really be prescribed areas of their own weaknesses that can help them be more successful. It's important that you know that the biggest orientation night happens in August for freshmen. So it's really important that we don't have a school calendar yet for next year, so I can't tell you exact dates. But when I go through how you stay connected with us here, that'll be where the information comes out of. But we do in August a 2.5 or 3 hour event, which is only freshmen in the building with their parents, a little similar to tonight. The difference is that you meet them and you start in the field house together. That's where they have their picture taken. It's kind of like the middle school and the intermediate schools give and take, but you get your picture taken, you put money on lunch accounts, you get their schedule, and then the parents go into the cafeteria and they get a little opportunity to meet with some core teachers, and then in here the freshmen have their very first freshman class meeting. Then we ring the bells and they go on to their first hour class with no 10th, 11th, and 12th graders in the building. They go through a mini schedule, and during that time, that happens to be my favorite meeting of the year because I get to teach you how to be a high school parent. Tonight might have been difficult for some of you because this might have been the first time you walked into a school meeting and we said, okay, students are going over here, parents are going over here, and kids are like, oh my gosh, I've never been in this building. So we like to give them couples of opportunities to go through this building before they actually start here with almost 2,000 students total. So that evening in August is really critical, and that information will come out to you. Usually it's about like a 4 to 6:30 time frame, but as soon as we can get the date to you, I would encourage you to mark that on your calendar. We also do in the spring, the students come over here during the school day by bus, and they get an opportunity to go in small groups and tour the campus. And so some of our current high school students will meet them here, they'll talk about a few things about high school, and then they go out and they take a full tour in small groups. So they get really comfortable with the building. So we hope that the transition when the first day of school starts is much smoother for students. Your students have come together if they've been in Grand Haven in 5th grade. So it's been this group right here that's coming in. Your group is the 3rd group that started together in Grand Haven in 5th grade. So they've had 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade together as a graduating class. So coming to the high school is not as scary anymore as it used to be, because it used to be that they were coming from different buildings and they didn't know nearly any students. And so one of the things we really, really encourage is for students to get involved. And that's why we have the activity fair set up tonight, so they can see all of the cool clubs, sports, band, orchestra, choirs, arts, all the different programs that we offer at the high school. Because when they're connected to the building beyond their academics, they have more fun, they feel more invested, and the day-to-day business of going to school doesn't get so mundane. There are students that will absolutely say, you know, do I really have to be involved in this or that? Our perspective is the more involved you are, the more positive things happen to you, and the less choices that maybe aren't so positive you have an opportunity to make. I want you to know, this is my 7th year right now as the high school principal, but it's my 29th year as an employee in the district, and I did my family career a little bit backwards, some of you might think. Some of you are at the end my age, and I have an 11-year-old, so I have my children spread out, and I was a little older when I got started. So I have a student in the building. I have 3 sons. I have 1 in our building, I have 1 at Lakeshore, and I have 1 at White Pines. So I want you to know that the caring culture and the culture for making certain that we are being inclusive is something that I have a huge passion for, not just because that's my job, but that's because that's what I believe. I believe every student that walks in the front door of our building should feel like they belong. We have programs to offer students from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other end of the spectrum. And when I say that, what I mean is we have the opportunity for students to start earning college credits in high school, and I will share a little bit about what that looks like. We also have programs in our building where we have students that are in wheelchairs, nonverbal, that have feeding tubes, that need help. So we have self-contained classrooms all the way up to kids that are at college for part of their day and in our building for part of the day. So if you are a parent who uses My School data and you look at data points for districts and different buildings, some of what you see is the fact that our climate here and the student population we have is very diverse. And it's very diverse academically, it's very diverse socioeconomically. We have lots of areas of diversity in our building, and so that's why every student's test score counts. It doesn't matter if they're an AP student or if they're an English language learner student. So that's what I think is important for everyone to know. I think it's important for you to know when you come to the high school that your student will have homework every single day. And I know that they have homework in 5th grade, and 6th grade, and 7th grade, and it doesn't mean that they have paper, pencil, or something on their Chromebook every single day. They don't think reading is homework. And they have something to do every single day, even if it is to read a chapter for ELA or to read a couple of pages for world history. So when they say, I don't have any homework to do, then I always respond to my own children, do you have anything to read? Well, yeah, I have something to read. Well, that's part of your homework tonight. So just know that even though we encourage 30 minutes of reading at this grade level or that grade level, here it's not a number of minutes that's required because every subject has a different amount of reading that's required based on where they're at and what they're doing. I think it's important for you to know that the Common Core state standards have increased the rigor in our classes. And rigor is something that students need to be prepared for when they leave our building, whether they're taking state assessments, whether they're going to a 2-year, 4-year college, whether they're going into a trade program or going directly into the workforce. They need to become critical thinkers, and the rigor and level of our coursework helps institute a higher level of critical thinking. I think it's important for you to know that the myth of world history is exactly that, a myth. I know the big myth is that world history is a bugger, that's the hardest class in 9th grade, and kids really struggle to get through it. For somebody else, it might be Algebra 1, and for somebody else, it might be English 9. So I think it's just important for you to know that reading is required in all of our subject areas, and it is required in world history, but it's required in all of our areas. High school graduation requirements. So I'm going to show you a few things on the computer just so you know where to find things. Our website is ghhs.ghabs.org. It is going to be changing, and I hope it's going to be changing at least by midsummer so that we have an opportunity to learn how to use it before it rolls out in the fall. But right now, this is what our website looks like. And so when you take a look, first of all, you're here already because our Twitter page goes directly to our website feed. So that's one way you can find out what's happening, is that we like to put out there on Twitter and Instagram all the great things happening. So that's one thing that you see on the website. But when you look at the top of the website, there are tabs here, and so our school talks a little bit about the administration, what our schedule looks like on a day-to-day basis, which is very similar to Lakeshore. We do run different schedules for pep assemblies and school improvement lessons and things, and those are all here. Our academic tab is where you're going to find this year's registration course curriculum guide. So your students have already been in their registration portal. Our counselors have been down to Lakeshore Middle School earlier this week working with the staff at Lakeshore to help your students get into their student view course selection piece of the portal. And so the course description guide is something you can take a look at if you have questions about what courses might be. So there are 2 guides up here, and one is the current school year, but what you want to look at is the 18-19 guide. So I've already opened that just so you can have a look here. So we have graduation requirements that fit into the Michigan Merit Curriculum, which is required by the state of Michigan. So the Michigan Merit Curriculum guides our content required courses, and then there are some elective offerings as well. So on page 11, it just gives you the overview of what's required of a high school student. So they are required 4 years of English. So in 9th grade, it's 9th grade English. And so that course would already be selected for them in their course selection portal. In Synergy, World History is the 9th grade course offering. Science, it's Earth Science. Math, right now, it would probably say algebra is what kids are all pre-registered for. We actually hand place all of the 8th graders later on in May once we find out where they're at. Their current 8th grade teacher will help us determine where do they need to go as a 9th grade student. It's a little bit early right now to guarantee that they're going to go on the track they think they might be going on. Some kids might struggle in the later part of the year. Some kids might do really well. So the math is the area in our building where we say it's not by grade level because it's by where you're at. So most of our math classes are mixed 9th through 12th grade students. That we have a 2-year requirement for world language to graduate, and most of your students have taken year 1 as an 8th grader, so they would be registering for the 2nd level of world language. It's 2 consecutive years of the same language. So if they're in Spanish 1 right now, Spanish 2 would be the consecutive required year. If they're in German 1, it would be German 2. We have both of those courses all the way up to level 5, so students can stay in that world language and become fluent in a second language. 0.5 PE is required and 0.5 health is required. I know that there's about 140 to 150 of your students that are currently taking the advanced PE and health class in 8th grade. That advanced PE and health class counts for this high school PE and health requirement. Just like your year 1 of world language counts for your high school requirement, just as your algebra or geometry, some of your students are coming in with algebra and geometry, some are coming in with just algebra, and some are coming in starting algebra. So some students are going to come to us with 1 credit of high school already, some 2, some 3. So the bottom line is every student needs to have 22 credits to graduate. And when they get to that bottom number of 22, it says there's 4 elective requirements. Well, it depends on what they're coming in with from the middle school on how many more are still required here. If they have no high school credits when they start with us, they have the ability to earn 24 credits during 4 years because they earn 6 credits in a school year with us. So if they're coming in with any credits at all, that just means that they have a little more wiggle room for more electives. It also means that when life gets hard and they are struggling and maybe they fail a class, maybe they have a medical situation and they have to reduce the schedule because of a medical situation, there's wiggle room built in and students will still be on track to graduate with their peers. So it's important for you to know that this course catalog or course description guide gives you every description of every course we offer. The front of every department will tell you all the courses offered in that department. It will tell you the grade level that it's recommended for, and it will tell you whether or not it fulfills a graduation requirement. And it's also important for parents that have athletes to know whether or not it will count for an NCAA transcripted course. Some people think, well, I don't really need to worry about that when my student's an 8th or 9th grader. But all of a sudden, they really turn it on in their sport and they decide, even if I go to Muskegon Community College, I want to be able to be eligible. If I go to a 4-year, Division I, or if I go to Division II, there's different NCAA requirements. And Keith Williams is our counselor that really works with those kids that want to go on and play college sports. But this part of the course description guide, that's the front of every department, will tell you whether or not the course actually counts for NCAA credit. So their grade point average when it comes to NCAA courses is figured separately than their regular grade point average as well. But you can see each one of the departments has that type of a guide at the very front of it. The other thing that you will see at the front of the science and at the front of the math guide is science and math become a little more specific depending on what your student might have an interest in. If they think they might want to go into engineering or if they think they might want to go into a STEM field, those departments have created some guides for you so that you can see where your student might need to go if that's an area of interest for them. We have a regular level track of courses that a student can go on to a college and take, but we also have some specific level coursework for students who want to go into, and they know they want to go into the medical field or they want to go into engineering or whatever it might be. So each of those departments have that type of a little guide for you that will help answer some questions. The portal that your student has been working in will remain open until the middle of next week. So you may go into their portal, you can see it in Parent View, but I don't believe you can make a change in Parent View. I don't remember if I could do that on mine or not. But I know that I try to give the ownership to my kids to make the changes. We talk about it and then I say, okay, now go take care of it. But that portal will remain open for you until the middle of next week. The counselors at the middle school are going to be working individually with students when they see that they don't have 6 credits, I should say. They have to have 12 courses selected to be complete. That would give them 6 classes each semester because we have a 6-hour day. They also have to select 3 alternatives in case something that they have as an elective fills up, then there's an alternate choice that they get to pick. So they really have to have a total of 15, 12 in part of the portal and 3 in the second part, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. But this guide will answer most of your questions, but we certainly are here to help you if you have other questions that you might have. Let me show you what Joe Buccaneer looks like. So in the Student View portal, you will see that the student can log in. I'm hopeful that you all have your Parent View accounts and that you use your Parent View accounts. And I would say not because you want to watch over every single thing your child's doing, but this is where a lot of great information comes out of. You can check your child's attendance on a regular basis. It's live. So if a student's marked absent first hour and you know you drop them off, you can set it so that you get an email anytime a student is marked U, which is in our building, it's unexcused. So if a student's marked unexcused and you know they're home, ooh, that's a red flag that I forgot to call and excuse them today. It doesn't mean that if I called and excused them and left a voicemail at 10 o'clock at night, that our attendance secretary at 8 o'clock in the morning has gotten through 300 voicemails, because sometimes there are that many on the machine, but she tries to get those all done early in the day so that they're done by around noon. We also have a phone calling system that at 3:30 starts calling home. If you forget to call today and excuse your child, you have 48 hours to do that, but you'll get a phone call home that will remind you that you had 1 or more unexcused absences. But when you go into this part of your Student View portal, you can see course requests. So Joe Buccaneer already is done. He already has his 2 English classes, because each course is a half a year, but the core required courses are a full year course. They register for a course for each semester. So it's English 9A, English 9B for the full English class. Spanish 2A, Spanish 2B, Algebra 1A, Algebra 1B. It's important for you to know that students are not seated with the same teacher for the full school year. When you have a building of 2,000 students, it's very hard to pigeonhole a student's schedule to be identical for the whole year if we want to have a lot of opportunities. So we do that with English. English stays linked. It doesn't work out 100% of the time, but English stays linked because of the amount of writing that's required, and we want to make sure that the students are comfortable sharing things in their writing with somebody, and it's harder for them when there's a change there. But with our other courses, we don't guarantee that they stay with the same teacher, and so people question that and say, well, why is that? Well, A, it gives our kids opportunities to be exposed to different kinds of teaching styles. That's what's going to happen when they leave our building. It also gives them more flexibility when they select electives that are only a semester long, and the elective can only be offered this hour of the day because there are the least number of conflicts. If we have students that want an elective and a lot of those kids take marching band or they're in AP psychology, that elective course only will fit third hour, and if your student is pigeonholed third hour for math, then they never can get that elective during that school year. So it just allows us a little bit more flexibility. But you can see that Joe Buccaneer has 12 selected courses that are required or elective courses, and then he also has 3 courses underneath his alternates. So 15 total is what you want to see. So your student should already have this in their student view. Like I said, our counselors have been down to the middle school, they've been working in their Student View portal, and so they should already be there. I just want to remind you, when you click into Student View, it's course history that you're looking at. So once you get into course history, you want to review with them what electives have they chose. So for example, Joe Buccaneer chose the elective to get the second year of Spanish completed, and then chose an elective of Art and Design, which is a semester-long class, and their English or their health requirement, which is also a semester class. So that's what those requirements look like. Some of the opportunities and things that students can be exposed to in our building, they will work towards the opportunity to go to the Career Line Tech Center. The Career Line Tech Center offers students the opportunity to get some hands-on training, and also some direct credit is offered to move from there on to two-year programs. That typically happens, they look at registering for that their sophomore year. It starts their junior year. We have an articulation agreement with Davenport College, and so Davenport has most of our business classes and in a lot of our engineering classes, for example, are direct credit if a student goes from our building and they go on to Davenport, which means Davenport has looked at our curriculum and they've said those courses are at the same level as our college, so we'll grant that student college credit if they've taken that course at Grand Haven High School. It's not direct credit somewhere else, it's directly with, the articulation agreement is directly with Davenport. We have AP classes that students can take, and those advanced placement courses then the student would take an advanced placement test in May, and if they score a 4 or 5 on that test, they can earn college credit that way. We also have enhanced dual enrollment and dual enrollment. So students will be a full-time student, but they might, instead of being in our building 6 hours a day, they might be in our building 4 hours, and they might go to Grand Valley, Hope College, Muskegon Community College for 2 hours. That typically happens for a student who's exceeded our curriculum. So if a student comes into us already having algebra and geometry, and I'll say math because that's primarily where it happens. So if they've already had algebra and geometry and they start with Honors Algebra 2, they go to pre-calculus, they take AP Calculus 2, and they get through the AP Calculus curriculum, they might go on to discrete math, linear algebra at Grand Valley. So once they've exceeded the opportunities in our building, then they move on to taking dual enrollment. They don't have to do that. We have 15 different AP courses that we offer, so there's plenty of opportunity to stay here and be immersed in the high school culture. And I believe as a parent, it's really important to remind them, you only get to be a high school student for 4 years. You can be a college student and you can get a job and you can work the rest of your life, but you can only be a high school student for 4 years, and you can only participate in all these different high school opportunities while you're a high school student. I think it's really important to remind ourselves that our kids are growing up way too fast, and that they need to be immersed in what high school is all about, in the climate and culture and all the fun activities. We also have an early college program for students who might decide that they want to receive an associate's degree the same time they're getting their high school diploma. And what that means, during their sophomore year, again, they would be applying to be an early college student, and that is a cooperative with the Ottawa Area Intermediate School District. The Northwest Ottawa Early College Program is Grand Haven, Coopersville, Allendale, and Spring Lake, and it's a cooperation with Muskegon Community College. So those students start working towards their associate's degree as juniors. And typically their junior year, they're on campus 4 hours a day, and they're taking MCC classes 2 hours a day. We're lucky that MCC has a campus at the community center. So during their junior year, most of their coursework is right at the community center, and we provide transportation during their junior year if they need it. After their junior year, they're into all different programs, and their track might separate a little bit, so their transportation is on their own, and they may be in the building for 2 or 3 hours, and then at the college campus for 3 or 4 hours, it depends. And so they might be here, or they might be up at the Muskegon campus. We also have a brand new program that we started this year that's really starting to get into full swing, and that's called our Prime program. And our Prime program is a partnership between our building and Shape Corporation. And we know that manufacturing and a lot of other skilled trade work in the state of Michigan is going to need a humongous workforce over the next 5 to 10 years. This is an opportunity for a student to start working towards that kind of a career. And working with Shape, they'll be taking some coursework here. They'll be receiving some certification right here at Grand Haven that a lot of people don't get until they've worked in a place like Shape for 2 or 3 years. It would afford them the opportunity to step into a position and then to continue their training. It's not guaranteed that they have to go to Shape. It's not guaranteed they're going to get hired, but it is an opportunity in our CAD lab, in our engineering courses, to partner with that with SHAPE, and they're working with us, and they have a table, and Julie Davison from SHAPE is actually with Jeremy in the field house tonight if you have questions about that program. There's going to be an opportunity for your student to be invited to a STEM camp this summer that they're going to be putting on to learn more about what is this SME program, what is Prime. So when that information is available, we'll get that out for any students that might be interested in some of that. 21F is another opportunity the state of Michigan affords us. Students can choose to take 2 online courses a semester rather than sitting in a class. Now, I'll be honest with you, it's not something I would highly promote, only because if a student struggles in a certain area, to think that they're going to be able to learn it on their own on a computer is very difficult. But we do have students that might choose to do that if we don't offer something. For example, we have some students that they don't want to take Spanish or French, they want to take Japanese, or they want to take sign language. So they might be doing that program online. They meet in our media center. Our media specialist is the teacher of record that oversees that program. But students are allowed to opt into the 21F, which is online learning through Michigan Virtual. And then we have other online learning things that happen here on a daily basis because of our Chromebooks. Our students use their Chromebooks as a tool, and we really, really work hard to extend and enhance the learning that we have already going on in classrooms. The Chromebook was not meant to replace the teacher or not meant to be in place of any type of face-to-face activity students might do with one another. So it's really important to us that students are being enhanced. And I'll give you just one example that I witnessed a few weeks back in a classroom. I walked into a classroom where they were doing an actual FaceTime with the teacher's friend who is retired from the military and lives in Texas. So he was FaceTiming with the class. It's an English language arts class, and they were doing some writing, and she wanted them to do some critical thinking. And so the students all had to come up with a question for him around what they were discussing in class. They then had him on a big screen like this, and each student, they were in a little semicircle, and each student asked the question. He was able to answer. They then had to write their 5-paragraph essay based on what their question was, how he answered it, and that's a way that we can enhance learning with the Chromebook. To say that we're going to call them on the phone or to say that we're going to send them an email and get information, I've never seen kids more engaged than talking to this man who was a retired military. It was incredible. So I think it's really important to know that your student has a gazillion opportunities here. Those are just some of the little tiny things. As they get a little bit older, they will have opportunities like a program that we call Pay It Forward that is only open to seniors, and that's where they really work with all the nonprofits in town. We have classes that are blended learning, so they might be in class some days of the week, they might be off campus some days of the week. Those blended learning opportunities don't happen until you're a little bit older. We also have I Create 360, and I Create 360 is a full opportunity to learn how to put together a business plan, the math behind it, and then to actually create a product. Those students are creating surfboards and longboards and paddle boards, and then we have a big event in May down at Portobello where they're auctioned off, and then that money goes to pay for the program for the next year. So just a few of the really, really cool programs that we offer. In regards to the registration portal, if you have any questions about it, don't hesitate to ask any of the adults that are around tonight. Don't hesitate to call your student's counselor here in our building or their counselor currently over at Lakeshore. They do work on a 4-year plan as part of their educational process. It's not like they're stuck in that 4-year plan, but they are asked to kind of look ahead. If this is where I'm at in math, where might my path take me moving forward? So it's important to just have that conversation so that it's a, where do I want to go, and let's help them get to that point. We don't ask them to tell us what they're going to do after they graduate right away, but we do want them to always be thinking forward on what is my next step and where do I want to end up at the end of the day. It's important for you to know how to communicate here at the high school. So when you walked in, on the chair on this side, there were these little flyers, and I know there's some in the field house also. But we have the website that I already talked about, and on the website You probably already get the 8th grade blast that comes out from Lakeshore, but there's a parent e-blast that comes out from the high school as well. So you would sign up as a 9th grade parent, and if you like to get more emails than not, you can sign up now as a 9th grade parent. If you want to wait and do it later in the year, May or June, feel free to do that. But information will be coming through that blast and through Amanda as we get dates that are critical to you, knowing when dates are coming up in the summertime. We also have Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, which is where we do a lot of posting, but just know that this icon that you see right here, that is the official high school page. That icon is used on all 3 of those accounts, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And so it doesn't matter which platform you have, the same post goes on all 3. So if you only have one of those, don't feel like you have to have all of them. But that's just for you to know that this is the icon that is the official page. There are plenty of different pages if you type Grand Haven High School, but that's the icon that is the one that you want to look at. I think it's important for you to know that we operate under Team GH. One family, one team, one Grand Haven here at the high school. It's really important for us that we have a partnership with our parents, and so it's important that you have ways to communicate, whether it be through some of our social media forums I'm telling you about, whether it be through the parent e-blast, whether you pick up the phone to make a phone call to make an appointment or send an email. I am a huge proponent in, if you have a question, if you're hearing about something, don't take what you're hearing about at face value. If you're not sure what it means or what it is, pick up the phone and call. Pick up the phone and ask. I often tell people when I became an administrator 19 years ago, before I could leave the building, I needed to make sure that I responded to every voicemail that I had. There were some days I had 10 voicemails, some days I had 15 voicemails. People don't use phones anymore to call. They email and they find other ways to reach out, but a phone call can really usually answer a question much quicker. When you send an email out, we don't sit in our office and wait for an email all day. It might be, I try really hard to respond within 24 hours, but sometimes I get 150 to 200 emails that I'm trying to look through to see if there's a parent or a student, because those are always, for me, the most critical responses. But if you need to know something, 850-6000. And if the secretary can't answer your question, she'll find somebody who can. So for me, that's really critical that we get back to some face-to-face conversation and some voice conversation as opposed to all technology conversation. We work really hard to make sure that with Team GH, it means that we are always, as a community, 2,000 students and 200 adults under this roof every day, and all of the external community, which is you, that we're working together towards excellence, holding one another accountable, and being mindful for how we're treating one another. It's really important to us that we keep connected to what that means as a community at Grand Haven High School. So I am going to be around. I will stay here. I will come towards the door. I will go in the field house. It doesn't matter. But your students are meandering through the field house right now at the table. Lots of adults in there that can answer questions for you. And so we're happy to help. If you are not sure how to get into the portal, we can help you do that as well. But I just want you to know we're glad that you're here. We're excited to get started with the class of 2022. We're already looking at what next year looks like. So thank you so much for coming.